Hello and welcome to Page Turners, a weekly bookish podcast for every kind of reader. Whether you want to explore a variety of genres, tick books off your growing TBR, or simply skip the reading for book club, we've got you covered. That's Amy.
And that's Liv.
Hello,
Hello!
we're back. Well, we haven't been away for the listeners, but we haven't actually seen each other online or in person in a while.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It feels like 2 weeks, but I don't think it's been quite 2 weeks. It's probably been
Not
a whole
quite.
week where we didn't see each other last week, so that's why it
Mhm.
feels longer. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better. Apologies if I cough in this episode or if you hear me struggling not to cough and you just hear horrible throat clearing sounds. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It could have been the dreaded vid. Who knows? It wasn't nice. I had it for about a week. Rory has it too. Yeah. And we went to Belfast and it actually happened in Belfast, so that was sad. Like I literally woke up
Oh,
with it on Saturday morning and thought, I can't go out, I can't do anything, I just can't move from my bed. So I wasted a full day, which was a shame, and a little bit of the next day. So yeah.
well, you can't help it if you're not well.
What can you do? What can you do? How have you been?
Fine, yeah, no. Was in Durham last weekend doing some maid of honor bridesmaids dress shopping, which was
Mm-hmm.
cute. I'll send you some pictures. Um,
Please do.
uh, yeah, no, it was nice. I got extremely drunk on both nights. Honestly, just not like I'm too old for this, Amy.
When did I go out? Saturday night. Saturday night I went out. We didn't go out, I went to a house party and
A house
I
party in our
yeah.
30s.
And our for a 40-year-old. So there you go.
Oh,
Um, but it was good fun, and I had what I didn't think was a lot to drink. I don't know if it was maybe the cold and flu tablets, also adding a little bit of a zhuzh to the festivities. But I was really drunk and feeling very sorry for myself on Sunday. It's just not worth it anymore. There you go. That's what I've declared. It's not worth it anymore.
yeah, no, I'm currently planning George's hen at the moment, and Uh, yeah, no, because George's mum was with us, and we were at a bar afterwards, and I was obviously lagging, and I'd had a couple of proseccos to try and boot me up during the dress
Mhm.
trial, and I was just like, "This hair of the dog is not herring. It's not doing
Oh,
what it's meant to be
no.
doing."
That's a
Ugh.
shame. That used to be my go-to solution. Like not just if a casual Sunday when I had nothing else on, but if I was somewhere where I had to, had to keep it going, had to keep the party going, um, then that's what I would try and do. But it doesn't work anymore.
No, but yeah, George's mum was very much like, "Liv, you're gonna have to bring your A game to the hen do." I was like, "I've organised the thing. You can all fuck off." Like,
Yeah, if I need to be dying with a hangover, I've done my bit. Okay, I've done it. Yeah, I've got a weekend away in Poland next weekend,
mm,
so I already know that's going to be a lot of alcohol consumed. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So we'll see how I do on Monday when I'm back.
Yeah, no, well, I won't hold anything against you when we start talking about our next week's book.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
book news. I believe that, oh God, whether this is outdated news or not, guys, we don't know. It was new to Amy and I, which I feel like is the only important thing here. Um, the International Booker Prize has for the first time featured six authors shortlisted for the first time. That's quite a good record for them. And it was a full house for indie publishers as well, which is
Great.
a first ever for the prize, which brings us on to sort of, I suppose, topical as to the threat of indie publishing for trad publishers. Ooh.
Ooh.
Maybe
Coming for you.
it's weird. Like I feel like we don't read a lot of indie authors, or I would be interested to see. I think maybe we should start reading more
I
indie.
don't think we are. I don't think we don't make a conscious decision about what kind of what published books we read. I don't think it's not that we don't, we just haven't as much
That's,
as we could have done.
you know what, I agree with that. Yeah, no, maybe we should make a conscious effort to start.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, we're good people. We're,
We try our very best. There's a lot of juggling that we need to do when it comes to making sure we try and cover every representation we can in the podcast. We do, it does matter to us, and we do try our very best. So,
yeah.
yeah, maybe we should be a bit more mindful.
Shouldn't we always? Um, I will say to anyone listening, if you have any really good indie book recommendations, indie authors, indie publishers, drop us a message on TikTok, Page Turners Pod, or Instagram, or email us, podcastpageturners@gmail.com. We'll totally take it under
Yeah,
consideration, and it just saves us having to troll through what's coming out, and you just saving us some time, and that'd be great.
sometime. Sometime. We could even read some of the winners or some of the you were saying there. That could be quite cool. We could
It
maybe
could be. Normally, I
sample.
stay away from anyone that gets a Booker Prize or an
Mm.
International Book Prize because they're not my vibe, but that doesn't
Hmm.
mean that we won't.
Maybe if there's a short one.
Yeah. Is there a Booker short story prize?
That's what we need. That's what we're
Yeah,
looking for.
yeah, yeah. Um, I believe you have some a book that's been published this week.
Fearless. Fearless is out this week. Was it yesterday? You said it was yesterday. So this is what day are we on? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So Tuesday came out. We weren't the biggest Powerless fans.
No, and neither of us have read Reckless or
No,
Powerful. And
no.
I don't think I'll be reading Fit. Well, maybe I will now that it's out because I just want to see how it ends.
I saw a spoiler, and it looks really convoluted, but I haven't read the second one. Or is this the fourth?
This is the fourth, but the third, like, because
Oh,
Powerful is like the novella, like
right.
that's about the Taylor lass, a Taylor friend.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She got a little summon summon. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, can't judge it because I haven't read the one and a half, so I don't know. But when I saw the spoiler, I thought, what? What? Who?
We
Um,
will we will talk about
yeah.
that spoiler off podcast because I'm interested in what that is.
Okay.
Yeah, but also at the same time, like I'm interested just because I want to see how it ends, but also at the same time, I've got a fuckload of books to read, and I couldn't give a shit about Lauren Roberts, so
There's a soundbite.
probably not going to put it on TikTok. Like, would I like one of our videos to go viral? Yes. Would I like it to go viral for a positive reason? Also, yes.
Also, yes, very much yes. What are you reading currently?
I am currently reading a book that Alex bought me when we went out for my birthday, and it's called "Someone You Can Build a Nest In" by James Wiswell,
Hmm. Okay.
and it's very cute. Um,
Hmm.
well, I'm only like two chapters in because I'm also trying to read our next podcast book at the same time. Um, that face
Mhm.
says it all.
Mm.
But yeah, it's really sweet. It's like a sort of a sapphic, but one of them's an amorphous blob.
Oh.
Yeah, right. Immediately, it gives you that. Oh,
Oh. I'm thinking flubber. I'm thinking cute.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's I'll send you the link to it, and you can have a look.
Do. That sounds really interesting. Well, I've just finished Mockingjay. Um,
Fuck, Amy, you have rattled
I
through
know,
them.
but I was ill. So I feel like when you're ill, you just want comfort reading. And it's so comfortable in that world that,
Yeah,
it was easy. Um, yeah, that was, gosh, that was sad. It was a sad read. And then I also watched the films
we
and
have also finished the
yeah,
films.
watched Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 on the same day whilst ill. And I think that was just like a recipe for just so many tears. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no,
Mm.
that's not gonna make you feel better.
No, that's actually quite masochistic when I think about it now. I don't know what that says about me and my state of mind that I did that. But
But
yeah.
so that's for our psychology podcast.
Um yeah, and then I'm reading what we're currently reading. Yeah, we will talk about that
How
next time.
how did it feel, just as a quick question, how did it feel finishing Mockingjay, having read Sunrise?
Ooh.
straight to the gut. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
heart.
Yeah. Um, yeah. We know too much now.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a way that somehow we can go back and not know it as much as we do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Excellent. So, are we thinking that we might do another episode talking about Hunger Games in general? Maybe for the Patreon?
Yeah, I think we could do. I think we could do that. There's a
Excellent.
lot, even if we just did a little callback video of what do we know now that we didn't know reading it the first time.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I love Catching Fire anyway, but reading Catching Fire after reading Sunrise is a whole new beast.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Amy, would
Mm.
you like to tell everyone what we've read this week?
We read Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. Do you want to tell us? Do you want to tell us what it's based on?
Yeah. Yeah, can do. Um, it is a reimagining, sort of an updated version of I need to see who wrote it, of Carmilla, which is the book that inspired Dracula. Um,
Mhm.
and it was written by Sheridan Le Fanu. Um, and it's basically so it's probably the original sort of example of the lesbian vampire. Um, and yeah, just it's very very gothic. It was published as a serial. And the story is it's sort of narrated by a young woman who is preyed upon by a female vampire named Carmilla. So yeah, and I mean it's had extensive adaptations in films, movies, games, operas, comics, television, all sorts. So yeah, it's I mean it's massive in popular culture. There's so many more books about it. There's that goes An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. Um, Sort of retells Carmilla about in Massachusetts at a 1960s college. So you love it, Ames, because it's a college collegiate.
Mm.
Um, Comics, film, like so many different films. Dracula's Daughter, which yeah, okay, let's not talk about that. um, yeah,
That's
the
really interesting that you've said that actually, because, and we'll come to it in a minute when we talk about the reviews, but that comes up a lot, that it's not the first of its kind.
yes, exactly. Yeah, we will. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair.
Mm.
Um, let's do it. Trigger warnings. Um, Violence, death, workplace injury, which makes me cackle. I would also add to that sex, sort of. What's the word where somebody sort of gets off on blood or biting, like something,
Oh.
some sort of like blood and sex. Voyeurism, or was that just me? Yeah, I think yeah.
Cannibalism?
I suppose yeah. No, no, that's fair. Yeah,
That's all I
cool.
can think of that you haven't included.
Throw it in there, absolutely.
Mm.
Now we move very swiftly onto a speedy summary. Ready?
Hmm.
Three, two, one, go.
Lenore, a member of high society, is unhappily married to Henry. One night she dreams of being bitten by a mysterious figure and soon after discovers a woman named Carmilla, who she rescues after a carriage accident. Upon bringing Carmilla to their summer house in Sheffield, Lenore is shocked to realise that Carmilla is the same figure from her dream. As strange occurrences unfold, such as servants fearing Carmilla's nocturnal wanderings and Lenore finding hidden diamonds in the house, Lenore begins to suspect something unsettling about Carmilla and her own relationship with Henry. As Lenore grows ill, her suspicions about her husband's infidelity with Cora, a friend who visits, intensifies. Lenore's mysterious illness worsens, and she becomes obsessed with eating sweets, which Carmilla finds troubling. Eventually, Lenore discovers that Henry has been poisoning her with the sweets. After further investigation, she finds evidence of Henry's criminal activities and learns that he is involved in cover ups at his steelworks to avoid paying workers compensation for accidents. This fuels her growing desire for revenge. Lenore's suspicions about Carmilla's involvement deepen when she learns that Carmilla knew about Henry's poisoning scheme. The two women share some sexy times, and Lenore begins plotting her revenge to expose Henry's wrongdoings. Eventually, Lenore confronts Cora, who is revealed to be part of Henry's schemes. Lenore and Cora argue, and Cora falls from a cliff and dies. Lenore ensures that evidence of Henry's crimes is given to the police, leaving a plan in place for what will happen should she die. In a final act of vengeance, Lenore confronts Henry, who tries to have her committed to an asylum. In a fit of rage, Lenore attacks and kills Henry, ripping his throat out with her teeth. The authorities suspect a rogue hunting dog was responsible for the attack, and Carmilla arrives to take Lenore away.
138.
Not bad.
Not bad. No, I thought, yeah, brilliant. All right. First impressions.
So, first impressions were, "Ah, I really wish it was October or September, the Burr months, because this would have been really, really good to read curled up in an armchair, raining outside,
Mm,
misty, atmospheric. It's been glorious sunshine here for the past, I don't know, 2 weeks or something. And that just, it's not the perfect weather for this book.
Um, that's true. But I suppose, do, do I think that I mean, is there much pathetic fallacy in this book? Like, is there much that adds weather-wise to the overall mood? Are
I
you
think it's
just
just because it's the moors, like the
yeah.
misty moors, that got me. And I thought, oh, because it's a very kind of, I always felt it was quite dark. Like it was
Mm,
written that the house that they're in is like falling apart and they're out in a really wild, I get very remote area. So I think it just would have suited it more if, I wasn't reading it in the garden. That would have been,
true. I
yeah.
will say the most unbelievable thing about this book isn't the vampire, it's that anyone chooses to summer in Sheffield.
I know. I thought that. And I
Um,
didn't know how actually historically accurate that was, but when I read it, I read the little author's note at the end that is just about the historical accuracy of the book. She does say, no, there wasn't a train link at that time. It came later, but she did it to make it more accessible. So I kind of get it. But I still don't understand why Sheffield was the chosen vacation spot.
City of Steel. To be fair, that is historically accurate, but yeah, what are you gonna do?
What was your first impressions of it?
Well, my first impression was that I knew I was gonna hate every man in this book.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did.
Yeah, and we got into no one's surprise. We did. Yeah.
Mm.
To be fair, not actually that many men in it, like of significance.
Mm,
Henry, um,
no. The detective inspector Lacey, I think it might have
who
been.
I who I didn't hate, but I
He
sort
was
of
okay.
he I think I hated him for a different reason. I hated him because he clearly he made it so that in his head Lenore wasn't capable of the things that she's doing because she's a
Mhm.
woman. So I think his prejudices blinded him to the truth, and that
Mm.
annoyed me.
But we benefited from it. Well, Lenore
Yes.
did.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It's hard to hate him too much when he's letting our girl get away with everything she needs to.
Yeah. Did you find it difficult to get into? Did you gel with the writing straight away?
I think it wasn't so much it wasn't that the writing was typically engaging. I was just so engaged with Lenore. I wanted the way that her character's crafted, her inner thoughts and everything, it just made me feel extremely sympathetic for her. And I was just desperate to get to the end of the novel to find out that she was okay.
Mhm. Yeah, that she wins. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're rooting for her the whole time. I was exactly the same. I found it really easy to get into, to be honest. I thought the writing was really nice. I gelled with it straight away. I thought it was beautiful. I thought there were some really nice phrases and I loved, as you said, getting into Lenore's head. I think that was done particularly well in this
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Did I want to fucking smack the box of pastels out of her fucking hands?
Oh
Like,
no.
you know,
Oh, I don't feel well, but I keep eating these mysterious sweets. Like, come on, Lenore. I know.
yeah. It's an interesting one, right? Because in a way, you know how I was shitting on Detective Lacey for thinking that Lenore couldn't do those things. Lenore's similar in a way because she thinks that Henry wouldn't do that to her, but I don't necessarily think hers is. Wouldn't think Henry doesn't. She isn't thinking that Henry won't do it to her because he's a man. She's thinking that Henry won't do it to her because for some reason he. I'm not going to say some reason he needs her. I'm not trying to belittle Lenore there. I just mean I think she puts too much emphasis on her Henry's view of her role.
Oh yeah, she does, because it's very much a marriage of convenience, isn't it? He needs the status. He's not from a particularly wealthy or high-ranking background,
Yeah.
and she needs to get married for security, because she's in her 30s and well, on the
Yeah.
time when they get married, she's 20, but that's the done thing. So she needs that, and he needs him, and it's very symbiotic in that respect. But I think you're right. She overestimates, sorry, how much he needs her because I think she forgets that in the society. I'm sure she doesn't forget, but I think it perhaps I don't know. I think sometimes it does slip her mind that men are always going to have the upper hand in that society, so she can't win, and it's not going to be an equal relationship just because she's got something on him. That's not
Yeah.
going to be enough.
I think obviously she needs money as well. That's also why she marries him. But I think you're right in suggesting that she forgets sometimes about her. When I say place, I don't mean to say it like a
I know
man would
what you
say,
mean. I know what you mean.
like, but I also think that that Henry I think Henry and all of the men in that society have never seen, nor do they ever see, the role of the woman as anything significant, despite the fact that they keep the household, despite the fact that they look after the staff, despite the fact that they organize everything to run behind the scenes. So Lenore's role is incredible and massive and
Mhm.
vital to Henry's existence, but he isn't aware of that, doesn't appreciate that, and thus he takes her lightly in that.
Yeah, and I actually think she underestimates herself hugely. She thinks that all she has on him is that she witnessed him kill someone, and that's she can use that to sort of blackmail him, and she can stay with him because of that. But she doesn't think about her role and
Yeah,
everything that she does to support him at all.
yeah, no. And it just I think part of it infuriated me as well because she finds her worth through Carmilla, which is a nice change for most of the books we read is that, women well, most of the romantic books we read, cough, Dream Harbor, cough. Um, most of the women, we've talked about this, they find their worth when they meet their partner, but it's always a man. Like, whereas Carmilla is very much like, just the character of Carmilla was so enigmatic and sexy and just, she gave no shits. And she was just like, what are you doing? You're like, why are you being so stupid?
She was almost metaphorical in a sense because she didn't really, I mean, we didn't really get much about what she was doing for herself. There wasn't much about her motivations that we found out in the story. It was all just seen through Lenore's eyes. And as you
Yeah.
say, she was a catalyst for Lenore to be able to be free, which was ultimately what she was looking for. But you're right, there wasn't really a sense of she saved her. There wasn't a kind of victim complex there. There wasn't sort of a damsel in distress thing. It was just she showed her a different way of living.
Oh my God, yes. And she gave her, I loved that they had sex, which we will talk about because it was extremely hot. Um, but also they had sex, but then she left and was like, you do what you need to do. I'll
Yeah.
be waiting for you. Like,
Mhm.
like you said, she gave her a different way. She gave her the tools to take the life that she wanted. Oh,
Yeah. But I mean, she could have ripped out Henry's throat at any point, right?
exactly. Yeah.
But she didn't want to. She wanted Lenore to get that satisfaction of doing it for herself.
And also, I think she wanted Lenore to, you know, it's that thing of I could say to you, hey, let's start a podcast. But I'll never know if you actually wanted to start the podcast because I said, oh, and you were like, oh, yeah, no, maybe just, but actually because we went together and we planned it
Hmm.
together, it's a joint venture. And that's what I think
Hmm.
she's giving Lenore that choice of like, you can take this life for you. This is how you can do it. I'm not going to do it for you. You need to be the one that embraces
Yes.
this life.
Yeah, you're totally right. You need to invest in this and you need to make that decision fully informed on what's going to happen.
Yeah. And quite lickety split because those pastels are literally killing you. Let's stop eating them, please and thank you.
We're just talking about relationships there and the relationship between Carmilla and Lenore. But there's another female relationship in this story, which is Lenore and Cora.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Um, it was a tough one, right? Because we're obviously meant to hate Cora immediately because we're meant to think exactly the same thing that at the very beginning Cora is clearly fucking Henry. Um, but to be fair, it's not that I really hated Cora. I was also like, well, fuck her then. If she wants to fuck Henry, that's absolutely fine. Like, Lenore's
Mm.
going to be living her best vampire life with Carmilla, so I don't see this as a problem. I don't know. I found Cora an interesting sort of contrast to Lenore because Lenore clearly sees what she was as like the rose of the season through Cora's
Hmm.
eyes, but Cora is much more, or much less, I suppose, much less repressed than Lenore was slash is because Cora already has money and sort of so has that sort of freedom in a
Hmm.
way to spend a couple of seasons looking for a suitor, finding not a love match, but someone who appreciates who she is at least,
Yes.
Whereas, I think we have an element of unreliable narration here as to who Cora is through Lenore's eyes, because there's jealousy there, there's insecurity, there's all sorts. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah. I I never like it when authors just pit women against one another for the sake of it. I find it quite frustrating because there's always, and especially in a book that does try and, a lot of it is to do with feminist themes, and it's great to see that in some ways. We've just spoke about how wonderfully it's done with Carmilla allowing Lenore to go and thrive and do her thing. I agree with what you said about the unreliable narration because I don't think we truly understood Cora's motivations, really. Um,
No, so let's talk about that. So we get the whole like, oh, they're clearly fucking like classic,
yeah.
what a yeah. But then Cora is mortified when Lenore suggests it mid-book, and she says, "No, actually, in fact, I'll tell you what's happening is he's asking me and my father for help because of this, this union worker business."
Hmm.
Um, and Lenore immediately is like, "Oh, okay." But we know, which Lenore has sort of forgotten, we know that the diamond necklace isn't coming out. We know that that
Yes.
diamond necklace isn't hers because it's the oldest trick in the book. It's Love Actually all over again. It's Emma Thompson being fucked up the arse by Alan Rickman. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. That's a really good parallel. Never thought about that. Yeah, we know it's a very stereotypical who has he bought the diamond necklace for?
yeah,
It's not you, so who is it?
exactly. And then that further she sort of goes on being like, oh, no, everything's fine, and she still has her with Cora, but that is a purely female. There's no man there. There's no like need for that anymore, which is nice. But then we get back to it when we see, they're on their little walkie walks, and Cora brings out, oh, she sees the necklace under Cora's collar or whatever, and those
Yeah.
suspicions begin anew. Even then, when her and Cora fight, and Cora sort of loses her balance, and whilst I would say Lenore kills her, she definitely doesn't do a lot to help her.
No, no. I think she does like bare minimum stuff. She's like, "Oh, you're really heavy." I'm just like, mm. Or
Oh,
she kind of tries to hold on as long as she can, but ultimately she knows I can't hold her up forever. Like, if I don't get help, if I don't do something, she's going to fall, which inevitably she does. So her mind's kind of made up, I think, from the start. She's just trying to prolong the inevitable of her letting her fall to her death. Yeah, I would have preferred it if. I mean, and to be fair, we don't actually still know because
that's
again,
that was
we think,
I was gonna.
yeah, sorry, no, just that Cora has said, well, actually, he bought me this necklace as a thank you because of what I did for him to protect his reputation and what my dad did, and so we don't actually know if it's the
No.
same old story.
Well, so that's it. So the that was what I was going to ask you. Cora vehemently denies it, and then she gets killed,
Mm,
accident, whatever,
mm,
killed. Um,
hmm
and then she goes and Henry and her have this big argument and stuff, and he says he has this almost surprised, what do you mean we were fucking, like, is that why you killed her? And there's that moment where I think in his, or what we see of him, it seems as if they weren't fucking. But what I will wonder is whether or not Henry has done anything to dissuade Lenore that Cora is an enemy. They're not necessarily, he knows he's not fucking her, but that doesn't stop him from tormenting Lenore with having Cora there as a sort
hmm
of look what you used to be type thing, which
Yes,
is
and
obviously,
using Cora to monitor Lenore and make sure she doesn't embarrass him and all those sort and kind of give her like a friend, like throw her a bone a bit because she talks about how lonely she is and that's why she doesn't want Carmilla to leave. That's what she tells Henry anyway. Oh, wouldn't you allow me to have a friend? And he probably at that point, Cora mysteriously turns up.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. He uses that relationship in different ways to get what he wants.
hmm Yeah.
Manipulates both
I
females. Yeah,
I don't know if they were just straight up having an affair. I don't know. I can't work out what would be because you made a really good point when you said that she had a lot of freedom. Cora has the freedom that Lenore doesn't have. She has the freedom of time. She can spend a bit longer. And as you say, maybe not necessarily finding a love match, but finding someone that she's quite happy to settle with because he is interested in her interests. And, she does have a personality. She wants to paint and
yeah.
he supports her. I just don't know what would Cora get out of being with Henry.
That's it. That is exactly. God, just stop taking the words out of my mouth, man. Um, like, yeah, that's it. Like, I could see her enjoying the attention and sort of
Yes.
liking them to maybe a flirty element, because I feel like we do get quite a bit of like flirting throughout the books
Mhm.
with a lot of the characters really together. Um, but I, yeah, you're right. What does she get from Henry other than fucking trouble? She already knows what the trouble he's in, so why would she touch that with a fucking barge pole?
Exactly. And we know that Henry's not the wealthy one. Like he is now. He's been successful with the steelworks and he's had to kind of claw his way up in society. And but he needs, even though he doesn't recognize it, we know that he needs whoever it is that he's in a relationship with more than they need him
Yeah,
because they have them, they've got, well, Cora especially, she's got her own money. She's independently wealthy. She's got a wealthy family. She's not going to be destitute if she doesn't marry Henry. So why would
yeah,
she want to?
yeah, yeah. I want to talk quickly about Henry. And I want to give him as little airtime as possible because he's an absolute massive bastard. But
Mm.
I specifically want to talk about, their sex scene. Uh,
He's always so rough with her. Like not even when he is rough with her when they're having sex, but he's always anytime he touches her, it's how
like
aggressively he touches her arm and then he's on her face, and it's just like property, isn't it? He's got no respect for Lenore whatsoever.
absolutely not. He's so right with property, even through the whole sex scene, which I say sex scene, it's not really. He comes to, but like they've had a fight, haven't they?
Hmm
Um, and he's come in and he's sort of like she said that he's not graced her bed in a year. And then he sort of comes in and he's a bit like, is he drunk?
He's definitely done, yeah, I think he's been at the chop house or something. He's always out with socializing with other gross men in the book.
And then I love how we don't know that they're actually gross, but you've just put that in there.
I've decided.
Yeah,
Decided.
fair enough. I'll take it. Yeah, so he comes and he like basically it's a very quintessential male gaze type sex scene where he literally just like ruffles up her, spreads her legs, ruffles up her nightie, sticks himself in, few pumps, he's done, and he rolls over, goes to bed.
Mhm. Yeah.
Disgusting.
Mm. Yeah. Grim. Grim. And so, um, is that before or after she first has sex with Carmilla?
It's before.
So that's really interesting because then we get a true contrast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's,
Mm.
it's such a beautiful scene because I found it, I don't know about you, but I found it so sexy all the way through. Carmilla was just this sort of like what I loved. So I listened to it on an audiobook, and it wasn't any dual narratives or whatever. It was just the same woman narrating it, but doing sort of changing her voice a little. And
Mm.
Carmilla really came alive on the audiobook because she gave her like I think even Lenore mentions that the accent's sort of like a little
Yeah.
European, a little not. And
Yeah.
I mean, look, somebody recording this, maybe you've had the chance to be like, I want to suck your blood. Oh, no, we kill Henry. Ah, no. But there's the opportunity there. I'm glad she didn't take it. She makes Carmilla so mysterious and almost smoky. And yeah, no,
Mm.
yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool because I got the tension, but maybe not as much as you did then. But
Mm,
when like, reading it, maybe it didn't come across the same way as the audiobook perhaps did.
well, it's always there if anyone fancies it. It's not, yeah, I read it on because of Spotify, their premium service allows me the audiobooks.
I noticed
Always
that when I was looking it up, I noticed it came up as a suggested way of reading it. You could get the audiobook too. Yeah. Mm.
because I refuse to pay for anything.
I mean, you do
Um,
pay for Spotify. You're just getting it as part of that.
that is very true. That is very true. But yeah, no, their sex scene is like it's so I wouldn't say it's flowery because we've spoken about flowery language in the past, and it seems really passionate
Yes.
and quite like it's starved. The whole thing is like she's starved for touch. She's
Mm.
starved for passion, and Carmilla gives it to her in spades.
Oh yeah.
Even before they have sex, like she talks about touching herself, and she thinks of Carmilla.
Yeah, and then
And,
she realizes what she's doing, and it's like, oh no, yeah,
oh
come on,
no, how
Lenore.
terrible!
We know, we already know. It's very animalistic, isn't it? It's a very
Yes,
animalistic sex scene.
it is, but not in a way that we've potentially had sex scenes in the past where they've been about possession. And I know that we could probably argue that Carmilla has this possession of it because of the bites and the consuming nature
Mhm.
of it. But I do think it's animalistic, but both partners are equal in this.
Mhm.
Normally you'll find the more dominant person in the relationship, mostly the man, written in some of the books that we've read. He will be the animalistic one, like, oh, it's all passionate and stuff, and the woman will be, oh, taken away, oh.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
this really interesting sort of look at sort of sapphic relationships and how, you know, that I also wonder whether it's a fuck you to a lot of men who are like, oh, who's the man in the relationship? I'm
Mm,
definitely
yeah.
I'm thinking too much into it. My literature GCSE is really paying for itself this week, but
Thriving. It's thriving. I mean, what I liked about it is that it wasn't really about love. It wasn't really about that side of things. And it was
mm,
unapologetic in that sense. We don't know if Carmilla was even had the capacity to love Lenore. She was a very manipulative character. We saw that throughout the story that she had a huge amount of influence over people and had them doing all kinds of horrendous stuff. And all right, she didn't use that influence negatively, I guess, on Lenore, not making her eat anyone's hair or, eat anyone's arm. But it was really interesting to think there is still definitely a power play there, you know.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned this isn't about love, and I would completely agree. But I think what's nice is that we see a relationship that doesn't have to be about love, right?
No.
What does she say? So we have no idea why she's there, but she says that Lenore called to her, that she could
Yes.
hear her. Is there something beautiful about like I could hear you screaming
Something
in
like that.
in
Yeah.
silence or something beautifully put like that. Um, and it's that idea that Carmilla's come to save her by letting her save herself, what we talked about
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
But yeah, not necessarily through love, but almost through the act of the fact that Carmilla is this sort of figurehead for, repressed women.
Hmm.
Um, because you'll
And
notice
I'm
that,
glad though. I don't want it to be so simplistic that it would just be about them being in a relationship afterwards where, there's routine and it's bigger than that. It's more than
yeah,
that. You're totally right. It's about Lenore finding herself, not
yeah,
necessarily finding a romantic partner.
yeah, no, I completely agree. I was gonna mention something as well, like, and I might be wrong. Is every person that Carmilla influences a woman?
Yes.
Yeah, so the woman that takes the bite out of her husband's arm, the woman that's
Hmm.
eating the chickens or
The
killing.
woman that kind of one of the maids sort of gorges herself on some of the game pies at the very beginning because she's so hungry, and we know that that's a theme that comes up again and again and again, this
Yeah.
insatiable hunger. Um,
And
and then
wait,
someone,
is
oh,
it
the Molly.
Molly? Molly is eating the hare. Yeah, so it's all women. So that's a really interesting take of like, I think, what do they hunger for? I mean, I know that
Mhm.
Molly and the woman eating the chickens probably don't hunger for live game and hare, but it's like this idea of like, paying time or writing where women get asked what they want
Mhm.
and if they
Mhm.
can take it
Mhm.
rather than, men taking what they want and sort of having us as an afterthought. It's very female driven, female led, which
Mm.
was really powerful.
We loved. Yeah, because there's a scene, I think it's quite close to the end actually, when Lenore's been locked in the bedroom and she just starts to devour like the bed sheets, the bedpost, because she's so unable to satiate herself.
Yep.
And it's that, which we know that you need to go and eat Henry, but she doesn't know that at the time. And
Yeah.
I think that's mirrored throughout with all the other female characters that get under the thrall of Carmilla. And then, so we don't know. We don't know if the same things are happening to other characters. We just see
No,
it from Lenore's perspective. We don't know how these relationships with Molly and Carmilla, for example, how does that manifest? We don't really find out.
no. But I think if anything, we're obviously there's the symbolism of the vampire curse, right? Which is clearly what Carmilla's passing on, but it's the idea of is the vampire curse a metaphor for actually just taking what you want and
Yeah.
unleashing this hunger inside of you as a woman, rather than actual being about physical food or physical
Mhm.
eats or whatever. It's like, what do you want to do? What do you want from life? This is something I can give you access to, and it just happens to be manifesting itself in different ways because they're so hungry.
Yeah, there's a great quote. I can't remember. I'm going to butcher it now, but there is some kind of wonderful quote that is something like, "There is no greater horror than being a woman."
Oh yeah. I mean, even if that's not the quote, that is a great quote anyway.
Let's be writing it down. Um, so I like the fact that on paper you could argue this is a horror,
Yeah.
but it's not trying to be horrifying. It's not,
No.
I wouldn't say there's any points in it that I was reading it and I was afraid or that I was like jumpy or anything like that. It's deeper than that, isn't it? It's more insidious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's oh, the horror of the patriarchy.
That's it. There we go again. There we go
Yeah.
again.
You know what you guys come to us for?
Okay. Are you ready for some reviews? Because I think we're starting to talk about what some of these reviews have spoken about.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
hit me with them.
Okay, 5 star, 1 star.
Let's go 5 star.
Let's go 5. Okay, so straight away, lots of people were talking about how beautifully written the story was.
Mm.
We've already talked a little bit about some of the quotes. Did anything else stand out to you? Well, you wouldn't have tabbed anything or you wouldn't have highlighted anything because you were listening to it, but did anything
Um,
sort of
I
stick?
I think I felt like I got a little too bogged down in the monotony of the house renovations. I think if anything, that's probably a negative for me. But like, I think if I think about it, the understanding is that, it's minutia, it's everyday chores, it's meant to be boring, it's not necessarily, and it's sort of there's not much more she can do. She's trapped in this sort of place. It's so it's isolating. So I sort of get that. But yeah, the Moors were beautifully described, and
Mhm.
just the relationship between Carmilla and Lenore, and the fact that there were some really lovely moments where Lenore is trying to figure out who she is. Yeah, they were really beautiful.
Mhm. Okay, agreed. Lenore's point of view gave a good insight not only into women's life in the time, but also it was very relatable for today.
Mm. Um, yeah, definitely. I think not necessarily in the sense of like she had to marry Henry because she needed, because of society rules at the time compared to now, but I think definitely also providing us with where is a woman's place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I was thinking about. It's that monotony of your day-to-day life. And that's not to say that's a experience that only women can experience, but
Mm,
there is a sense of duty that I think is very much still there in a lot of relationships and a lot of setups nowadays, that there is still very much a place for women, that there's
well,
roles that are expected
yeah.
that we do not feel, but it's we just read Annie Bot. We talked about the different kind of androids that were created and the three things that women were sort of designed to do.
Mm,
Um, and I can certainly see why. I mean, I don't know for you, but I think I can say it for you that we are not in relationships like that.
no.
But there are plenty of women that are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also it's that thing, and we're seeing a rise of it again of the trad wife. And sort of
Yes. Yeah.
as we're seeing it with this idea of, I mean, I say we try not to be political, that's a lie. We try not to talk too much about real world politics because we want this to be an escape, but we're seeing that coming out more and more with Trump's America and the trad wife and that sort of thing. But also what flabbergasts me is women getting behind
Yeah.
the trad wife,
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with traditional women's roles, being a mother, staying home with your children, cooking, cleaning. That's there. I've got absolutely nothing wrong with women having
No.
those roles, as long as, what we find oppressive, or at least what I find oppressive, is men coming home and being like, oh, is that thing of like men assuming that their work stops at the door. Like,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
treat what women do if they are a stay-at-home mum as a full-time job. Oh, well, why is the house a tip? Because you've been home all day. Yeah, but
Mhm.
you also spunked 2 kids into me, which I've had to shit out and then fucking look after. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
just the lack of understanding and the lack of
Yeah.
equality in relationships. Yeah, no, sorry, go on.
No, no,
Don't let
I
me
agree.
go on.
I just never want us to feel like we're saying in this podcast that that's not okay, that if you choose to have a life like that, that you should feel in any way inferior or, that
No.
we are belittling that in any way at all. That's not the case. It's choice. And I think this book does that well. It shows you that there's a freedom in being able to choose and decide and have agency. And that's what it always comes back to. Whatever it is you decide to do, as long as it's your decision and you're happy with it, we
Oh,
love
mwah,
that.
mwah. Couldn't have put it better myself. Like,
Mhm.
you know, people always say things people get bogged down with like girl boss and like girl CEO and all that sort of
Yes.
stuff. But it's
Yeah.
not necessary, you know. We fought for equality. We're still fighting for equality. We got the vote, but people didn't do it so that, so that we had to all go out and girl boss.
No. And I think sometimes that's another way that women can compare themselves to other women and then feel lesser. You know, like, oh, why
Hmm.
am I not doing that? It's another way of us feeling that we need to be like someone else or we're not good
Yeah.
enough, we're not doing what we should be doing. And, you know, it's the thief of joy, isn't it? Comparison, that's what they say. So I can see why you would want to do that, but I think we always are, well, I like to think I am, and I think you are too, the feminist stance of do whatever the fuck makes you happy.
Yeah.
We're
And
there.
yeah, do whatever makes you happy as long as it's not shitting on other people and we can get behind that.
That's it. That's it. And this book does real I think it does well to show that in the times that it's set.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next little point. Oh, this is interesting because this is actually 5 star versus 1 star. So some people felt this was a 5 star point, and some people felt this made it a 1 star book. Okay.
Okay.
So 5 star is that they enjoyed that Camilla was a background character and Lenore was the star of the show.
Hmm.
Then the 1 star said Carmilla was 2D and had no agency of her own. The book did not need her to work.
Of course it did. Carmilla is the symbolic representation of feminine or feminist equality. Like, she's not necessarily a character in her own right because she's already achieved what she wants in life, and she's there to ensure that the women around her do exactly that, or at least the women that she cares for do exactly that.
Yeah, you summed it up really well. Yeah, I agree. I think it couldn't exist without her. She's the catalyst for the story, but she allows Lenore to make her own decisions and win by herself. She doesn't need her, but she supports her by
Yeah,
showing her, as you said earlier, this is what you could do, this is how you could live, but I'm not doing it for you because you need to decide.
yeah, yeah. And we know at the end that she comes and takes her away. We don't, we've spoken about like it's not necessarily love, but they clearly form a relationship together that is almost, I don't know, it's there's a word that I feel like I'm grasping for, but I just don't know if I'm
Hmm.
going to get it. It's just so they're perfectly they fit perfectly together,
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
yeah, it seems wrong for them not to be together, whether it's through any sort of, personally, am I imagining that there'll be a big commune of them and, they're all just women living together and killing any men that come into their lives? Yes, that would
Hmm.
be great. I would like Kat Dunn to write that book as well, please. Um,
Yeah.
but
A bit
oh
like
God,
Wayward Girls. That's what you're thinking, like a coven.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think that's how I imagined it ended. That when she came to take her away, Lenore just not became an extension of Carmilla, but just had the exact same sort of goals as she would. That it's just about spreading the message and getting more women to, yeah, be independent and
Just
have
being
agency.
free,
Mm,
being
yeah.
free, answering to no one. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, at what point would I ask those people that put that as a 1 star is, what else would you have had Camilla do?
Yeah.
Like, I think they probably would have had her come in and save Lenore.
I think that, and we don't know who these people are. So, I'm not saying personally, but I think the issue might come from people having read other books where there is a male and a female character, and that there is an alpha that comes in and sorts out the problems. And I think that perhaps that's what people were not necessarily looking for, but that's what stood out to them as, oh, I don't know enough about that character because they didn't realize it's not about Carmilla.
No, exactly. Yeah. From what I can gather, because neither of us have read the original Carmilla, which, I mean, I feel like was probably an oversight from us and we probably should have, but, whatever. Um, You don't come to it here expecting a fully fledged, in-depth research podcast, I hope. But what I do know is that Carmilla is very much the villain in
Yes.
the original book. Like, akin to Dracula, you know?
Hmm.
She's the temptation, she's after the main character, you know, and it's about consuming her and sort of wanting her rather
Hmm.
than, you know, rather than lifting her up and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
living with her together. Like, you know, it's there's I would say the original Carmilla is lust,
Hmm.
whereas our Carmilla in Hungerstone, she's like we said, she's not love, but it's something that transcends lust. It's
Hmm.
that something in her eyes or something that she sees in Lenore that she wants to set free and she
Yeah.
wants to help her set something free. I'm not sure what the word for that is, but if anyone knows it, let us know.
Comment below. Um, it was boring and it dragged on.
Um, I mean, maybe I could see that from. I'm trying to think of a bit that I found that I was like, oh, you know, but I maybe
It
I
was a little bit long in parts. It's quite routine. I think a lot of books that you read from this time period, there's a lot of waking up, getting ready for the day, going down for breakfast, maybe going a walk around, the local town and coming back and suppering because it
yeah
was everything was an occasion in those days for high society. So I think sometimes books like this do sort of show you that. But I think you're right. It's to emphasize the monotony.
yeah yeah, and the
Um,
trapped and the sort of claustrophobic way that Lenore feels that, you know, this
yeah.
is the life she always thought she wanted to be a grand lady in a grand house, but actually it's fucking boring.
Yeah. And would you have felt as strong of a connection to Lenore if it had sped through all that and it had missed that and you didn't see it? I don't know. I
It's
can't say
very
for sure.
That's an astute point, and I think I don't know, I'm gonna say I don't think people would, but you never know, I suppose.
And then there was quite a few DNFs. There wasn't a lot of one-star reviews, to be fair, but there were quite a few of them that mentioned that they did DNF the book because they didn't gel with the writing and other books, as I've said before, other books, and I guess as you were saying, also other forms of media, retell this story better and do this better.
But I mean it's I think the reason I refused to, or I didn't refuse, but like the reason I didn't use the word retelling when we introduced it is because I don't actually think it's a retelling of it. I think it's picked from what I can remember as a sapphic feminist reimagining of Carmilla.
Yeah.
So talking about, you know, and maybe you can say I'm splitting hairs, that's absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, they're not, I mean, Kat's not revamping it to tell the exact same story. She's doing it to ensure that a new story, a new message is being shown, and the character of Carmilla just happens to be there.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
she could have used any sexy female vampire, lesbian female sexy vampire, like, you know, but by choosing Carmilla, she subverts Carmilla's initial
Mhm.
villain status and makes her a liberator.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, perfectly put. I agree. She could have done this differently. She didn't have to have it be Carmilla. But I like the fact that, and maybe you don't know that if you haven't read it, that it takes the villain story and turns it on its head.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, how many times have people tried to romanticize Dracula? Like,
So many villains. Like, how many times do we want the villain to get the girl? In that old trope that we see all the time, or like we get this first story where it's maybe like the good character, and then everyone's bored and rolls their eyes. And thankfully, in book two, the bad the bad guy gets the girl. Like, how many times have we read that story? This is
me,
just the same
I've
thing,
I've
but
never read that story, Amy. I don't know what you're talking about.
no, I've got so many recommendations.
Um, but even in like, oh, it just infuriates me because let's take Gary Oldman's Dracula. Sorry, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is Gary Oldman. Like I mean, the film itself is dog shit.
Mhm.
And you can write that down, anyone who's listening. I will go on record and tell you that that film is dog shit. Um, but we're supposed to believe that Gary Oldman's Dracula is this real tragic romantic figure when he's literally just raped Lucy in a cemetery and he's taking her blood and everything without her consent. He's not doing that to Mina because he loves Mina. So yeah, I don't know. Fuck off, those people. Fuck them. I want to know when
Yeah.
did anyone say they DNF'd it. I want to know what point they DNF'd it. Did anyone say?
It was quite early in. I think one person said 14%, someone else said like page 200, like it was quite hmm
Yeah, okay, okay, fine. And maybe the stuff about, oh, is Henry having an affair? What's going on? Got a bit long, but like, I wasn't here for Henry. I didn't give a shit. If Henry was fucking Cora, I couldn't couldn't care less.
mm,
All I
yeah.
wanted to know was that Lenore made it through and that she ended up with Carmilla. Final
Final.
thoughts.
Oh, hmm. I loved it.
And
Yeah.
we speak about this a lot on the podcast. Like, I think we tend to talk about books and then we analyze them and we're like, oh, actually, that's a pile of shit. Oh, we forgot to do Ick of the Week.
Oh, did we have one though? I didn't have one. Did you have one?
I think we would probably just agree everything Henry does, but oh no, I'll tell you. Actually, I do have one.
You got one. Okay.
It's more of like a, oh, that seems a bit convenient. Is when her and Carmilla go out and she sees Henry in the bar with like a sex worker or a
Oh, yeah, yeah.
tavern
Mm-hmm.
wench. I'm not really sure what she's described as, but yeah, no, for me that was just a little bit like we know Henry's a bastard. We also don't need infidelity on top of that. Like
No, exactly. Yeah, it
y-
felt a little bit like, right, okay, it's overkill now. We already on your side. We already dislike Henry.
yeah, it, but also as well like this. We were all pretty convinced he was out fucking around. Whether he was fucking core wasn't fucking core or not, all these late nights he's clearly like fucking someone or
Hmm.
some people and stuff like that. Like, so yeah, I just thought it was a little bit, like you said, overkill. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessary. Seeing him out and having her be like, "Oh my God, he's gonna see me" or whatever, like that's fine, but doesn't necessarily have to be him getting a lap dance or whatever he's getting. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you've said in past episodes as well that some we need justification to hate a character because when that character is inevitably killed by the main character, we need
Mm,
to feel that we're okay with that, you
yeah.
know. And I think that's what Kat was trying to do. But by that point in the story, we had enough. We had a dossier about Henry of why he deserved to die, so we didn't need anything else.
Even if he was never planning on killing her and never slept with anyone else, I'd still think she was justified in her killing of him. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Um, no, I really loved it. Was it perfect? No, I don't think it was. I think in places it probably was a bit long, but
mm,
I had a great time reading it. I cared about the characters immensely. I really wanted Lenore to win. It was so satisfying when she did. There was so many clever callbacks. The idea of the hunting dogs and Henry being so, I guess his hubris meant that he thought he could just, oh, buy hunting dogs, I'll put in a pack and I won't train them and nothing bad will ever happen. And we get little, oh, the hunting dogs have got into the kitchen and they're like wrecking the kitchen. So it was so satisfying at the end when they just assumed that that's what had happened because he was such an idiot. And they kind of felt that way, that they said, like, oh, obviously didn't train the dogs. This is a
yeah.
result of that.
What I love is that we spoke earlier about the trigger warnings of the workplace injury. That's the workplace injury, is that one of the gardeners gets mauled by an untrained hunting dog.
That and the really horrific steelwork accident where like
Oh,
something pings off and takes off the guy's
no,
face.
that is 100% the workplace injury, not the thing I'm thinking of.
No, I think they both are. I mean, technically they both are.
Yeah, technically they both happen
Yeah.
in that person's place of work. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh, that's so bad. Anyway, um, yeah, no, I think what's really telling is how that those last few chapters where Lenore becomes like the hostess of the shooting weekend and everyone loves her
Hmm.
because she already fits into that society. That just reinforces for her that she will be fine on her own, that Henry is, meh, because they don't give a shit about him. They don't
No.
care.
No, none of them truly accept him. And we
No.
get callbacks to that throughout the story, especially in the part where we find out that he's killed someone because they had like an altercation and he actually shot somebody. Because his pride was so badly bruised by this person basically saying, we only allow you here because, you're like a dog to us. We just see you as lesser and we
Yeah.
tolerate you. He's never going to
Yeah.
be accepted into society because it's a class system that he can't overcome it. because he didn't
No.
come from that background.
Yeah, I think as well, I wonder if that allows for us to to explain some of his hatred and jealousy towards Lenore all the way through. He never admits it that he's jealous of her, but that's it. She has something that he doesn't have, despite the fact that he's got all the money in the world. She doesn't, and she still, despite marrying him, gets more.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm in a way, would I wish we'd seen a bit more of that? Well, not really, because it's not Henry's story, so I didn't care. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we got enough to understand that. But yeah, it was a good time. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good time had by all, absolutely. Recommend it? Yeah, yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Push it up your TBR if you haven't seen it. It's a real feminist sapphic romp for sure. I would say
Yeah.
r- on the very surface you could say it's it's just like, vampires, but really deep, if you look at it, you really analyze it like we have done because we are clever sausages, you'll see that it is truly a real quite feminist marvel, actually.
That's high praise.
There you go, Cat
Um,
Dunn.
high praise. Get that on your on the next book, Feminist Marvel. Live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, no, it's if you can wait, I think it would benefit waiting for the more atmospheric of months. But then you might not live in a seasonal country, so that might not be relevant to you.
True, true. Yeah, I get what Amy's saying, but I don't think there are any. I From what I remember, I didn't feel that there was a real heavy sort of scene setting placed on the weather, which would be what affects me in terms of when I would read books rather than necessarily time of year or whatever. But I can fully appreciate why you think like the cold coziness would
Mm.
be aesthetic of the whole story. So yeah. Other books, I would definitely recommend A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. That is basically Dracula's brides and them wanting to escape him. And it's queer and it's great. That's great. Carmilla. Yeah, read the original Carmilla for sure.
What was the collegiate one you mentioned?
Oh, that
I don't know
was
if you'd read it, but I might want to make a note of it.
yeah, just just for science.
Just for research purposes.
Oh, that is another S.T. Gibson, An Education in Malice. It retells Carmilla, but in Massachusetts at a 1960s college.
That sounds up my street.
Yeah. There's a bunch like Undead Girl Murder Farce is a Japanese light novel series by Aosaki. Um, Carmilla is a recurring antagonist. It's got manga and anime adaptations as well. Yeah, fun. I mean, yeah, all sorts, all sorts. But yeah, I'm sure you can have a look on the Wikipedia page that I got this from.
Okay, what's up next?
Next week, we will be reading Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake.
Mhm.
What is it pitched as? Succession meets magic? Succession meets something?
It's given me instantly Succession vibes, and it's given me Fall of the House of Usher vibes too. But I don't know if that's just what I'm getting from the front because there's a little like I don't even know what you'd say, like a soundbite if you like on the front cover. Money is the family business, magic is the family curse. So the idea of the curse is making me think House of Usher, but I could be completely off base with that. Um, yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's rather large and quite involved. Um,
Mhm. And you, right? When was this released?
1st of April. So
Yeah, so we're
we
so
are
on it
we
now,
are
guys. We're on it. Our
we
fingers on
really
the
are.
pulse.
That we do. And it's sometimes not good for us.
No, it makes things a lot more challenging. I've got a lot to read and not that much time to read it in, but that's okay.
But what I will say is it's very exciting because it's our 50th episode.
Yay!
Um, yeah, I mean, look, if we had planned this better, would we have made Sunrise on the Reaping for the 50th games to be our 50th episode? Yes, of course. Did we anticipate however long ago that we kicked off this episode or figured out we were going to be reading Sunrise on the Reaping that we'd be hitting 50 episodes? No. So, it's going to be fun. 50th episode. We might do a little bit of something extra special for it.
Mhm.
And yeah, we will be in person again, so that'll be really nice. So maybe we'll have had a bunch of wine and say inappropriate things like we did with Our Infinite Fates.
You just got to tune in to find out.
Absolutely. Yeah, until next week. Happy reading.